Hello, everyone. Welcome to Progress Junior Golf with Live Sport Now and the England Golf Young Ambassadors. My name's Steve Jackson, and this is Ian Waterhouse.
Hello, Steve. How are you? It's a very important day today, isn't it? Hence the reason for the episode going out on Tuesday as opposed to its normal Wednesday.
Absolutely, yes. We were 24 hours late last time we did the podcast, which was because I was on holiday. So, yeah, exactly. So,
What's
pops
that?
up the best of reasons, but we've got a proper, really important reason why we're going out 24 hours early. We will explain more as and when we get to it. But now this podcast, if you've not seen it before, is all about junior golf. It's about the next generation of golfers. It's about getting more boys and girls playing the game of golf. This is show number 44. And we are doing it a day early, as we mentioned there, for a very good reason, because to coincide with Youth Mental Health Day, we're going to be looking at mental health within junior golf. Now, it's a massive subject.
Yeah.
It's obviously a very serious issue as well, not just in golf, of course, in life, in sport. So, but we're going to be concentrating, obviously, on junior golf, as always, and we're going to be looking at the positive effects of golf, how can it help? It can help mental health with junior golfers, how golf can actually help juniors as well with their school exams, with things like that, how it can help adults as well, how adults can help juniors. So trying to get, it's such a big subject to cover, isn't it? So we're trying to cover lots of different angles here, kind of thing. But we've got some big guests on, who can talk about their experiences. So we've got pre-recorded interviews with England Golf lead safeguarding officer Petra Duvanna, and also England Golf Young Ambassador and Young Volunteer of the Year Emily Horsted. So we're going to hear their thoughts. Really busy show, but an important show, isn't it? Because it's a subject which
100%.
Yeah, which needs to be looked at, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. We almost take it for granted, don't we? But we're more aware now, aren't we? The work that's gone on over the last decade or so. Certainly, I mean, when you and me were youngsters growing up, mental health wasn't something you spoke about. Do you know what I mean? It just, it existed. Of course it did. It was there, but you didn't talk about it. And but things are changing for the good, shall we say? We don't want to sit here and, just toe the standard line, but, we want to do what's important. And we talk about sport. I'm a big believer of psychology, certainly psychology in sport. And mental health plays a major part of that, especially in golf. There's probably more so than other sports as well. Perhaps, you're out there on your own, aren't you? It's, as they always say, a lot of golf is played up here, not necessarily with club in hand.
Absolutely, yeah. And like we say, it does coincide with Youth Mental Health Day as well. So if there's anything which you need to know about that, we will give some numbers as well a little bit later on in the show as well, to details about that. Right, first things first, though, let's do the latest junior golf news. Now, we did mention it's a busy show, so it's going to be slightly shorter news than normal for that reason. Big week coming up, which we will cover actually probably in the next podcast, Solheim Cup, Junior Solheim Cup and the Junior Ryder Cup. So we'll go into more details with the news from those two events in the next podcast. Having said that, though, staying overseas, though, we'll start in Spain. The Spanish International Boys Championship, Under-18s Championship, was won by Austrian Matthias Wise. He shot 67, 73, 73, 72, won by one shot from Ben Starman. The best placed English player or best placed British player was Daniel Hayes. He finished just one shot further back. I think actually going into the final round, he was joint first as well. So it was quite a tense battle and a really good competition by the sounds of it. Staying overseas once again, the R&A Student Tour Series. They had an event in Spain, boys and girls with this one. The boys event or men's event, whichever way you want to call it, was won by Ian Murphy from Ireland. 71, 70, 71. He won by two shots from Hugo Stark from Sweden. And Spain's Ignacio Matteo Fraga in fourth place, so highest place English player in that, with Will Coxon. So well done to Will. The girls' event was won by Elise Fredriksson from Sweden. But wow, what a final round to win it. 75-75, trailing by 5 shots going into the final round, shot a 68 to overtake Lucy Jameson, who shot 73, 72, 75. So well done to Elise there for winning that one. Right, big event, which you know very well, Ian, because you've done some events there. Took place at Woodhall Spa, the English Boys County Champion of Champions event. They have the men's one there, They have the ladies ones there, they have the boys ones there. I think it's spread over different weekends that they do. Although I think the men's one was on the same weekend. Boys winner though from Lancashire. Talk about good scores again. Yeah, I'm not sure which one they did play on at Woodhall Spa, but either one of the two courses, as you well know, are fantastically, and tough courses as well.
Well, especially the Hodgkin,
which I suspect is which is the one that they probably did play on. But winner was William Sandos from Lancashire, 71.69 to win it. And I'm not sure whether they had a playoff or whether it was on countback, but he finished level with Gavin Ingram, who led after shooting a 66 in the first round. So cracking first round for him, and it was a very close competition because third place was Harrison Shule. He was just a further shot back as well, 70-71 for him. So, excellent scoring in that competition. Right, staying in with the boys' championships up in Scotland this time. Lothian Areas. Now they've won the men's team championship the previous week. Well, they backed it up by winning the boys' competition as well. This took place at Forest Park. The team was Kai Lang, who's from Broomy No Golf Club, James Wood from Bathgate, and Aidan Lawson from Bruntsfield Links. They won, I think they were pretty close to competition. I think they won one or two shots. The best individual, though, it was Lanarkshire's Brodie Cunningham from Bothwell Castle. So well done to them for playing in that.
Nice. Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Now, just finally, an event which is close to my heart because I helped run it. We've got some photos of the winners of this because we had the Order of Merit for the Shires Junior Golf Tour. Two of the competitions were already won, or two of them were going into the last event. But if you put some of the photos up, I'll explain exactly what went on and who won it. So that's Caelan Beveridge. Then we have a 9-hole competition, and Caelan actually won the Order of Merit without actually winning an event. So consistent. I think he had 4 second-place finishes throughout the entire season. Just couldn't quite get that W, but he got the W in the end in the sense of he won the Order of Merit. So he won the bronze division. Nice. So well done to Caelan. That's Edie Spears, who played. You might remember Edie actually, Ian, because she was part of the Shires Junior Golf Tour Golf Day earlier this year, which played.
Yeah, I do remember.
Played with Charlie Hull. Well, she not only that, she's going to win it again. She's won the Order of Merit, Order of Merit again this year. Now, this was the one which actually wasn't decided going into the last event. The last event took place at Kidworth Golf Club. It was between her and Oliver Chambers about who was going to win it. Oliver Chalmers, sorry, who was going to win it. And Edie just held off. Actually, in the end, she won quite convincingly in the end. But well done to Edie. So she won the net prize, which was over 18 holes. And that's Finn Colley, who won the gross prize. Now, the way that the Order of Merit works is there's 9 events over the course of the year, and it's the best 5 results which count towards the Order of Merit. Now, how about Finn? Because Finn only played in 5 events, but in the gross category, he finished first, second, and second. That's some consistency.
Wow.
That so
that's impressive.
Absolutely. So well done to Finn, and their prize. I think I'm right in thinking that they win a custom fitted set of Ping golf clubs. So thanks very much to Ping for providing that for the 3 winners. The grand final, which will take place in 3 weeks' time, I think October the 8th, takes place at Market Harbour Golf Club, and the winners of that competition will have that round of golf with Charlie Hull again. So we're hopeful that he'll either be at Sunningdale or Woburn or somewhere. Well, look, you can play
Sunningdale.
To be fair, you could play it on a pitch and putt, and it would be a special day playing a round of golf with Charlie, wouldn't it? So,
absolutely. I'll tell you what, I would learn a lot.
Absolutely. Who is now up to number 8 in the world rankings. So she's had a fantastic season. I mean, she was a pretty good player when we saw her back in February. Well, she's got even better since then. So she's
been a pretty good player, Steve, from 6 years old or something.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Right, just a final mention for that last competition. We'll do our guess the score because I know you love these when I get to embarrass you. Right, so bronze competition then, like I say, over 9 holes. The girls won this one. I won't do a guess the score on this one, but actually very good score. Net 29 won it.
Okay,
that was
good.
Sienna Williams, Kai Williams, by the way, who will be coming on the podcast in 2 weeks' time. That's his younger sister. So well done to Sienna for winning that event. Actually, I mentioned Caelan, who won the Order of Merit. He won it with 4 second-place finishes. Sienna's won 3 competitions this year. So by the sounds of it, there's
Bronson, we see this a lot, don't we, Steve?
Absolutely.
We talk about this a lot, don't we? Siblings. In fact, I think it's going to be on a podcast soon, isn't
it? Absolutely, yes. We will do that one at some stage. Gross competition was won by Liam Greeno. really tight competition, won on count back, birdied the last hole to win it. That's the way to win a competition, isn't it? Right, guess the score then. The net competition then. So this is played at Kibworth Golf Club, which is in Leicestershire. What do you think the net winning score was then? It's a par, let me think, what was it? Par 71.
Par 71.
Par 71.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Steve, I don't know. I'm massively over. I'm massively under. Give me a clue. Give me a ballpark, so I'm not wildly out.
It wasn't in the 60s.
It wasn't in the 60s.
No.
59.
Net 56. 15 under par. So well run to Rowan Miles, who won it. I mean, actually, you have to feel a little bit for Zach Dunkley for any second. Coming in with a net 61, thinking, wow, I've just had the round of my life, and then loses by 5 shots. But there's as is always in the case of junior golf, there's no losers. They all,
but they're playing, aren't they? That's all that matters. At the end of the day, it's all that matters. I'm glad you gave me a clue, because I probably would have said about 70.
Yes.
So, but I know I should know better, Steve. I really should know better.
Well, put it this way: if I said to you that was the silver division, so that's a net 56. The best net score in the gold division was net 74. So that's how much better. So that's how much better they were. And by the way, the event that we had in the previous round, which was only a week earlier, was at Bedfordshire Golf Club. The person who won the gross prize, believe it or not, was in the silver division, played off 31 handicap. It was played over 9 holes with the Thunder and Lightning came in, but he shot an absolutely wonder round on the front 9 and won the gross prize. So that's that. So handicap, sometimes it doesn't make a blind bit of difference, does it? So no, there you go.
Blind bit of difference. Yeah.
Right. Now, we did mention Kai Williams there, who's going to be coming on the podcast. Now, Kai is an England Golf Young Ambassador, and we've got a video because the England Golf are looking to recruit some more young ambassadors, and we have got another one coming up on the podcast in Emily Horsted, and I think it's important that we do stress this. It's a really important role. It's one whereby it gives kids the opportunity to get a voice in golf. We give kids the opportunity to voice, but this is one whereby England Golf as well are really pushing this. But don't let me explain it. Let's get the video, and they can explain exactly what it's all about.
The Young Ambassador Programme is a platform to be able to inspire young people in golf and make sure everyone knows how inclusive golf is as a sport.
Current juniors are going to be part of golf and involved within golf for the next 60, 70 years. So they should be involved in the governance of the game now. And the Young Ambassador Programme gives the opportunity for young people to have that say within the game.
England Golf and the Golf Foundation have set up the programme for young people to break down the barriers, to challenge perceptions of the game, but ultimately encourage more juniors and young people to play the game of golf.
The opportunities that the Young Ambassador Programme have given me, I couldn't list on one hand or even two.
I think one of my favourite experiences was the opportunity to work at the BMW PGA Championships at Wentworth. I was able to interview some pro golfers as well as some celebrities as well, and it really was just an amazing opportunity.
We're constantly trying to develop the programme. We listen to the young people themselves to understand what they're enjoying, what they're really wanting to get out of it, and where they see that they can actually influence golf in the future.
It's brilliant. It's the best fun I've ever had in my life. The people I'm meeting, the experiences I'm having, for example, being here today at Ferndown Golf Club is an opportunity I never would have gotten without the Young Ambassadors.
People should definitely get involved if they're already involved in the sport and want to see behind the scenes and what happens. And if you're really passionate about, girls in golf or disability golf or anything involving young people, then you should definitely get involved. You can be the change that you want to see in the sport.
The Young Ambassadors are between the ages of 14 and 22. And they're from a diverse range of backgrounds. Some of them are very good golfers, and we also have others who aren't golfers or very new to the sport. So we're really needing to get perspectives from a wide range of different young people.
It's really, really easy to apply to become a Young Ambassador. There is a simple application form that you can fill out online through the website, and then following that we'll have a recruitment day where we'll invite applicants down to then get to know you, go through a process and be in touch.
I'd recommend being a Young Ambassador because it's just so much fun, but as well it's a great feeling being able to inspire other people to take up the sport and know that you're making a difference in the game.
Okay, so that ends the junior golf news then for this podcast. On to the actual main topic of the podcast, and we are going to be talking
Steve,
about
can I stop you there, actually? Can I just stop you there? I do have a little bit of news as well myself, just let people know what's coming up. I've been very busy. I've been on a golf course a lot. Last Monday, I was at Meltham Golf Club with the ITS Tour. Wednesday, I played up at Weldon, which was nice to get out for a round. Took the old man up for a round up there. And then Thursday, I was at Wentworth, which was very nice for the BMW PGA. But coming up, even more Troubadour Grand Final this Monday, live from Dundonald Links. I'm making a trip up to Scotland on Sunday night for that. You can watch that one across our social media channels. Live Sport Now on YouTube is the best place to do it. You can access it actually where it says live chat. So even during this podcast, we do want to hear from you. So please do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. And then next Thursday, I'm actually at Huddersfield Golf Club as well for the ITS Tour. So a lot coming up. And the reason I mentioned Troubadour is because we did have some juniors play on it at back at Dundonald's earlier on the year, and they did very well too. So do keep your eyes on it. The grand final coming up this Monday, going to be a cracker. Steve.
All right, fantastic. Right, we're going to be talking about mental health then within junior golf to coincide with today, which is Youth Mental Health Day. So we've got two pre-recorded interviews. We're going to cut in between the particular interviews. The two people we've been speaking to are England Golf Lead Safeguarding Officer Petra Duvanna and England Golf Young Ambassador Emily Horsted. We're going to start then. I chatted with Emily a couple of weeks ago. Simple question I asked her then: how did she get into golf?
I got into golf through my mum and dad. They got both me and my sister involved, and it's a bit of a family thing with all of us, kind of getting out and enjoying the fresh air, I suppose, and going to play golf, all of us together.
And what age were you?
I was 10.
Okay.
9 or 10, that kind of ballpark.
And then from then onwards, then how much golf did you play? How often did you go out as you were growing up through your teenage years?
Well, pretty much every year playing as much golf as possible. It's kind of when I was still at school and things like that, and you have the summer holidays, it's pretty much like everyday golf for about 6 weeks. But yeah, it's kind of at least every weekend whilst I was at school, just trying to get out and play as much as I could.
And when did you feel as if you'd got the bug?
Oh, pretty much immediately, really. It was the little Saturday morning lessons at the club with all the juniors and just getting a little bit better each time. A little bit of a bug for it, going, right, I can do this, I can get better at it, and just wanting to keep improving from there. And
obviously that you would hope that you were enjoying it as well at the same time as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. It was always good fun. The little bit of friendly competition between all of us for the games at the end and things like that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely at the beginning, but then it's just grown and grown since then.
Okay, all right. You made the point there then. So at the beginning, it was a lot more fun. Did it get a little bit more serious as you were getting older and getting better, and your handicap was perhaps coming down?
Well, yeah, it's kind of handicap starts coming down. You want to start improving and putting that work in and all of those kind of things. Obviously playing more golf, and it's club competitions and county events and all things like that, and the kind of competitive edge from the Saturday morning games go a little bit kind of more, I would say.
So that's obviously a little bit from Emily, just to give us a bit of a background of her how she started in the sport. We'll hear from Emily. We'll hear more from Emily as this podcast goes on. Let's introduce Petra then, because when I spoke to Petra Duvanna, who's the England Golf Lead Safeguarding Officer, she actually sent me an email back to say, what are we going to be covering within mental health? Because it's obviously a massive subject. So I suppose that was the first question to her. You know, it is a huge subject. This is what she had to say.
So mental health, I think the first thing to sort of go into is the fact that it's all encompassing. So previously mental health was sort of associated with mental illness, and I think there's still a bit of a misconception around the terminology. So people will think of mental health and they think, oh, we're talking about mental illness here. But actually mental health is comparable with physical health. So you've got a whole spectrum of people who are experiencing good mental health, and then people who are in poor mental health or experiencing mental illness or mental ill health conditions. But the actual terminology itself, the idea of mental health, is an umbrella term which is looking at what we can do to keep ourselves mentally well and what to do if we're falling, into mental ill health, and sort of recognizing that we're never going to stay in one place on that spectrum, in the same way that our physical health changes and develops over time and ebbs and flows. Our mental health is the same. So it's not something that we need to be shying away from. And the conversations that we're having about it these days are really helpful, and it's great that you've invited me on. But like you say, it's such a broad subject. Where do you even begin?
And in particular with juniors, with youngsters who are maturing,
Yes.
trying to learn things as well. I mean, it's very difficult to even know what's going through their head, let alone what they know what's going through their head at that time.
Yeah, very much so. And I think, for a start, mental health and the whole subject, we're not the only people talking about it. So juniors will be used to having these conversations at school, which is great. It's part of the curriculum. It's part of their sort of personal, social health education provision. So from a very young age, in fact, my daughter, when she was in reception, they celebrated World Mental Health Day by dressing up in yellow. And at that very earliest age, she's coming home and explaining what she understands about mental health and what it means. So those conversations are happening. So if you are having a conversation with a junior, you don't need to feel this is the first time this has been broached, or this is the first time that they've even thought about it, because it is being encouraged through schools and other groups.
Isn't there the irony there, the fact that the juniors are teaching the adults in some
Absolutely,
way?
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's a sign of the times, really, Steve, and the previous generations, and even, ourselves, when we were at school, this wasn't a conversation that was being had. There was a stigma around it, and there was the stereotypes around what it means to have a mental illness, and there was a fear factor as well. It was like fear of the unknown. Whereas, the generations coming through now are much more understanding and tolerant and sensitive about this subject. So I think they've got a lot to teach us. Well, absolutely.
I think the fascinating point about that, Ian, was the fact that you mentioned about kids at school being taught at a very young age. When I've got a 16-year-old, how old are your kid?
7. Yeah.
7. So is that a conversation which you've had with them even at that young age?
We're very fortunate with our lad. He seems very comfortable in himself at the minute. But I think it's good that schools do broach these sorts of subjects now, to let them know that it is okay if you're not quite there for whatever reason, and to actually talk about it. We spoke at the top of this podcast, Steve, didn't we, that when we were younger, you just didn't talk about that sort of thing. Even at school, you would probably just try and fit in, so and just crack on, wouldn't you, really, rather than actually maybe be honest with how you were feeling. And I think it's changed for the good, and she touches on it quite a bit there, doesn't she? It's changing with the times for the good.
Right, now this podcast is obviously about junior golf, so this is obviously I talked Petra specifically about sport, golf, and how it can improve mental health. This is what she had to say on that subject.
It's comparable with the benefits to physical health. So it's like a double whammy. If you're being active and you're getting that exercise, you're taking care of your body, but also your mind. And the benefits of golf are almost sort of triple fold, because you've also got the benefit of being outside and getting the fresh air and the space and the time, which other sports don't necessarily afford you. Phil Mickelson said that at the heart of his love of golf is the fact that you go out and it's a 3 to 4 hour meditation. And I thought that's such a good analogy, because most people that play golf wouldn't think of necessarily meditating or thinking that's something for them. But actually, it's the same sort of experience, because you're getting time and headspace and calm, and you're engaged in a mindful activity, and you're getting all of those benefits, but in a way that is probably more accessible to you as a golfer.
It's interesting you mentioned Phil Mickelson there. You wonder whether he thought that as a youngster, because obviously he's been playing the game a long period of time now. Do you think, as a junior, do you think they can appreciate that type of thing? Do you think they can understand that?
Yeah, I think, like you say, with the education that they're getting from an early age, I think they're getting that the benefits of physical activity on your mental health are undoubtable. And the fact that they're engaging in sport from an early age, they're actually feeling it themselves. It's not theoretical. They're actually experiencing it. They know that if they have a PE class in school and they run off any sort of stressful energy from being in a difficult maths class, they feel better afterwards. Like, okay, well, the benefits are really tangible for them. And certainly I think, when Emily speaks about the benefits that she experienced through golf and balancing the golf alongside a sort of exam revision schedule, she's so aware, and I think youngsters are now, of how it can be used to balance your mental health and to help improve your mental health if you are going through difficult, stressful times. And, like you say, the research shows that it's physical exercise. The benefits are not only that it helps you if you are going through difficulties, but it can also be preventative. So it can help prevent mental ill health, certain conditions like the sort of sad umbrella conditions, which are stress, anxiety, and depression. There's so much evidence that putting physical activity into your weekly routine can help stave off those conditions. So it's kind of like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you be doing it? And if you've got a passion for a sport in particular, like golf, then it just lends itself so well to it.
Golf is a difficult sport. And obviously there are points whereby even as much as we enjoy playing golf, it can also tear us apart as well when we're out on the golf course as well.
Break your heart.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So how do adults deal with it? But how do juniors deal with it? What would your advice be as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, so I think there's a part for adults to be playing with juniors here in terms of setting an example, because some of the most frustrated, explosive reactions we see often, unfortunately, come from the adult end of our membership. So people need to be mindful of the fact that juniors, most things are caught, not taught. So we catch a reaction from someone else, we embody it, and that's how we react in the future. So it's all very well saying, we're going to teach you how to behave on the golf course. This is the etiquette. This is how you should conduct yourself. But then actually what I'm catching from these adult members is that when you hit a bad shot, you take your club and you swing it against a tree. Okay, so there's a conflict there between what's being taught and what's being shown. So yeah, adults can be setting a positive example to our juniors, but also there's a part to play in terms of the pressure that's being put on the juniors. So a lot of frustration is stemming from the fact that they want to do well for themselves, but also that they want to do well for their families, for their supporters, for their club, for their coach. And that can be intense. So I think work needs to be done on the culture at the club. So we're not just celebrating the wins. We're not just celebrating the silverware. We're celebrating the fact that you are consistently turning up, that you are consistently pursuing your best. So you are always aiming for better. Even if you don't achieve it, you're trying. And we're celebrating the fact that you are embracing a sport and committing to it in a way that a lot of people don't. Like, that in itself is an achievement, that you are dedicated to this sport. That's fantastic. So I think in terms of easing the pressure, that's something that all clubs can do. They can look at their ethos and what are we actually celebrating? And then in terms of identifying, if a youngster is starting to feel the pressure, perhaps their performances are slipping, perhaps they're, I'm sure there's a technical term, but I don't know it. So they're choking, they're missing easy putts at the high pressure moments. What can we do to alleviate that? How can we make sure that they're enjoying the sport? And sometimes it is about conversations, and it can be something as simple as, you've identified that the performance is suffering, or that they just seem tense, and you can just read their body language, that the joy is gone. They're here in person, but their mind's somewhere else. So sometimes it's as simple as having a chat with that young person and saying, look, I've noticed that you don't seem to be getting as much enjoyment as you used to. And and get them to identify what it is that's causing them to feel less positive about the sport, or what they think is causing them to underperform potentially against their potential. And then let's look at what you used to enjoy. Let's look at why you fell in love with this sport, and what elements was it? Was it having, fun family days where there's no pressure and you get to spend time with your loved ones and you're just having fun? Okay, let's incorporate some more of that into your program. Was it that you just love going to the range and smacking the balls as hard as you can so that you can get some frustration out? Okay, let's work some of that back into your program and try and reinvigorate that joy and excitement about the sport. And hopefully by doing that, sort of making those small changes, it can have an impact across the rest of their play, so that they don't feel quite as pressurized and they do fall back in love with the sport that they were once so enjoying.
So that's England Golf Lead Safeguarding Officer Petra Duvanna. We're going to hear more from Petra as this podcast goes on. Talks a lot of sense, doesn't she, Ian?
Yeah, 100%. It's we've often spoken about it. Sometimes we think too much, certainly in golf, and certainly at junior levels. It really is just about doing what makes you happy when it comes to golf. You don't always have to be winning. Like I played last week, as I said before, and I actually played really well. I come off the course, can't wait but I still did some terrible shots, but I played well. So yeah, and I played my dad. My dad's played a long time. He's a good golfer. Played up at Farnham and he beat me, but I came off still feeling like I'd won because I'd played better than I've played for a long time. So it's just, certainly at junior level. I mean, pro level's a different league. We're not talking about that. We're talking about junior level, and it's the same at all sport, really. Just stay in the game, and so you're going to go through ups and downs. But if you can be honest with yourself when you're having a down and find out why you're having a down, and find a way to alleviate that, if it's a bit of practice or whether it's just switching back to something that you enjoy, go and do it.
Now, there's an obvious reason why we got Petra on this, just to give her an adult point of view, give us some advice and things like that. Now, when we initially set up this podcast and we were going to do this subject, I was a little bit wary, I have to admit, about whether we were going to get a young ambassador on, because I didn't know why they would want to come on. Straight away, Emily was straight on the email. Yes, I'd love to be on this podcast. Let's hear from her. Simple question was, why did you want to be on this podcast?
How much kind of golf has given me in terms of confidence and everything else, but also golf was a little bit of my, not an escape, but it was somewhere that just I can go out, I can just think about the golf and not have to worry about anything else, just out in the fresh air, enjoy the golf and not have to worry about anything else going on. So yeah, I wanted to come on and do this podcast especially because I know how much golf has helped me, and if we can share a little bit more of that with others and show kind of how much golf and sport in general can help with those kind of things, then it's always a good thing to do.
As far as yourself is concerned, then, were there moments whereby your mental health was suffering as a youngster, and you felt you needed something to help with that?
Yeah, it wasn't so much I kind of needed something, but through school and the usual kind of stresses and things like that, there were some points that golf very much kind of helped with just a lot of thinking all at once and the stresses and everything else. But yeah, golf was definitely my go-to as a kind of a bit of a release, really, where you could just go out, and golf takes a lot of thinking and you didn't really have time to think about anything else. So yeah, try to play as much golf as possible, because it was always nice just to get out and just enjoy being outside, really.
Now, it goes without saying that it's been a while since I was a teenager, but obviously some of the things which teenagers and youngsters have to go through, and I'm thinking in particular, obviously, of maturity, of exams, school pressures, things like that. Is that something which you felt as a youngster? Let's talk specifically then about exams and how golf helped with that.
Yeah, so I'm not really one for exams and things like that. I did absolutely fine in all of them. But I'm very much a kind of coursework than sitting an exam and all of those kind of things. Having been through GCSEs and A levels and already done both, it was, golf was very much helpful to, right, I've not got to think about science for 4 hours. So yeah, in terms of exams and not having to worry about all of that kind of thing that was going on kind of later down in the year, it was a good few hours that you could take out of revision or kind of work that you were doing that was going towards that. It was a few hours that just as a bit of a break and a bit of a breather, that it wasn't just full on schoolwork all the time.
And how difficult or how easy was it to get that balance? Because, okay, in the summer holidays, it really shouldn't affect anything because obviously your exams are out the way, or you're getting ready for the next year. But obviously, perhaps in Easter or Maybank holiday, whereby you could have the opportunity to play golf, but you were looking ahead to exams. How was it difficult? Was it to get that balance between, obviously exams are important, but at the same time, the golf was important to make sure that you did well in those exams?
Yeah, so it's when it comes to like Easter and bank holidays and things like that, there were little revision sessions that my school put on throughout those little holidays, which were great and just kind of keep that knowledge working through. And then it was just in between those revision sessions, having to go back into school over holiday, kind of working in as much golf as I could with everything else that was going on as well. And even throughout like the terms at school, it was obviously schoolwork all the way through the week and then bits of revision over the weekend, but then trying to get as much golf and things like that at the weekend as I could whilst trying to balance it. I think I found quite a good balance by the end of it, and it worked out all right with the amount of work that I put in, but also the actual getting in golf as well.
And as we know with golf, it can take a long time. So therefore, it's not a case of, just nipping down to the park and having a game of football or something like that, which might be an hour, or going to the gym or going for a swim or something like that, which might only take you an hour. Golf could be, in some respects, it could be the entire day, couldn't it?
Yeah, so it is quite nice that golf takes a while, really, having to kind of get to the course, 4 hours out on the course at the most, hopefully. And then obviously going home, it does take pretty much the whole day. So it's quite nice that it does take a whole day just to go out and you can just think about golf. And it's not trying to, right, I've got this much revision and then I've got an hour, I can go and have a break, then this much revision. It's just gone, right, I'm having a day to golf and we're not going to worry about any schoolwork just for an entire day. We can have a chill one and then we'll get back on with work tomorrow.
That's fascinating. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's fascinating. They're talking about schools and trying to get the balance between the exams and the golf and things like that.
Yeah,
it's my son is 16 years old and he's just done his GCSEs, and that was a bit of an eye opener for me of how he was dealing with that, because obviously exams are coming at some points, to a day, those types of things, and obviously sport had to take a back step during those periods of time. But at the same time, he was not necessarily golf with him, but he was getting the opportunity to give himself the break. And how important is that?
100%. It's. I think you said to Emily there, it's a long time since you were a teenager.
Thank you,
Steve. And likewise here too. And I don't think I was mentally strong enough. If I look back now, you hear from people like Emily, and it's remarkable how sort of intelligent she is, really. We've said this before about Emily, and it's not just Emily. It's I generally think a lot more people, youngsters these days, are more aware and perhaps switched on with this type of thing. And I wish I had been, exams are pressure. It's a hard time for anybody, whether you're doing your SATs or whether you're doing your GCSEs, or whether you're doing your A levels, whether you're at university. It's a stressful time. So getting that mental headspace, I think, is important. And that was nice to hear from Emily saying, just today I'm just going to focus on golf. And we often see it, don't we? You overthink things. I've already said it once on this podcast. Sometimes you overthink, and sometimes when you just switch off, go away, come back, you perform better, even though you haven't actually picked up a pen or something like that. Suddenly that sum that you couldn't figure out just comes to you once you go away from it. So, yeah.
And just saying the subject of school, we're going to hear from Emily, and again, just talking about this, but I said to the point where golf can take a long time, but also the suggestion I raised to her, play the video now, but how important it is just to take mini breaks as well, because sometimes you can just take a little bit of a break, perhaps for an hour, and go to the golf course that way. Let's hear what Emily had to say about that.
With the golf clubs where I'm at, it does take a little bit of a while to get there, because it's not like right on the doorstep with where I live. So it is some points where there's a little kind of setup in the garden. We've got a net and little just chipping balls in the garden. So that was quite nice, just rather than having to travel quite a bit to then have a practice for an hour or so to then drive all the way back. It was quite nice that, right, shut the laptop down, put the work away, I'm going out in the garden and hit a load of chips and practice some of the kind of little short irons and things like that. So yeah, that was quite nice, just having the opportunity that just like, right, shut everything down, we're not going to worry about it for a bit, and go and have an hour or so just out in the garden, a bit of fresh air, just a bit of chipping practice as well is always good.
And how much awareness do you have from other people? So say, for example, from your school, is that something that they actively recommended to not just yourself, but some of your friends, some of the other pupils, whereby, take a break, go and do another sport? It may be golf, it may be another sport. Is that something they actively looked, try to say, do this?
Yeah, so they did kind of say it quite a few times at GCSE level and also quite a lot at A level as well, because of how much work we had. It was like, whether it was sport or not, they've just gone, you need to try and work out a balance where you're not just schoolwork all of the time, because you'll just wear yourself out. And they put like little kind of not programs, but that kind of thing in place where you just go, right, revise for an hour, 20-minute break, revise for a little bit, and then break. Just break it up in between. So whether it's you go out, play a sport, just as long as you don't kind of just schoolwork all of the time, because you can't physically take on that amount of information. It's trying to work that much doesn't always help getting the information in. So they did very much say the little breaks, whether it's sport, whether it's something else that you enjoy, break up that revision, break up the schoolwork with something that you enjoy doing. Don't just work all the time.
And how much awareness do you have from the golf clubs? The fact that, were they aware of the fact that you were doing exams? So say, for example, don't put on a competition in the mid-June, for example, or something like that.
Not so much, because for a lot of junior competitions and things like that, they do fall throughout the summer holiday, where you just like a lot of the, other than odd monthly competitions, where it's just a monthly medal or a Stapleford on a Sunday, they are aware that we are all at school and it just doesn't work putting competitions and events during the week for most of the year. They are kind of aware, and you do just have en masse of junior events throughout the summer. So you are playing a lot of junior competitions throughout those kind of 6 weeks, because they do just try and cram them all in as best as they can there, rather than putting them while you're at school as well.
I'm just thinking perhaps for yourself, obviously, who represented your county as well. Were there county matches occasionally which fell on a weekend within the school period?
Yeah, so there are odd county events that do fall at the weekend and things like that. So it's not too bad really when you have the odd event or match or competition for the county as well during the kind of weekend whilst you're still at school. But yeah, they try and, especially for junior events at county level, they are similar to clubs where they know you're at school and it's probably not going to work very well for you. So attendance wise at events, they are aware that they will do better having it throughout the summer, when you will get more juniors turning up and playing.
Yeah, and also in the right frame of mind as well, because if you've got an exam the following week, the last thing by the sounds of it, you were very good at it in the sense of switching off and making sure that when you were on the golf course, you were just concentrating on the golf. But at the same time, so I'll give an example. There was an event I ran the a few months ago, whereby there was thunder and lightning. The event was delayed by an hour and a half. Some of the kids didn't get back until 10 o'clock, and they had school the following day. And obviously, as an organizer, I'm feeling guilty in the sense of, am I ruining? Am I affecting their schoolwork? Is that something whereby you are aware of on occasions?
Not so much, because they do try and they are back at school at this time, so it's like the last few days of the summer holidays. They try and avoid big competitions. They try and put those big events kind of throughout the middle of the summer. So it's not so much they're going back to school. They've got to go and do a load of work in the morning or anything like that. It's, even if it is and it's relatively close to when they do start going back to school, it's like looking at the tea times, and they'll try and put them at a reasonable time, but a little bit earlier than kind of around lunchtime, because they do understand that obviously you have still got to go home and work around going back to school and being at school as best as possible.
Now, obviously, this podcast, Ian, is all the podcasts we've filmed is about trying to raise awareness of different subjects. Yep. We've covered a lot of different subjects. Perhaps this one's probably the most important one, of making golf clubs, golf counties, golf organisations aware of the fact that mental health for juniors, schools, things like that, all these things can affect it, can't they? Just simple things, putting competitions on the right time, making sure that they can get back and concentrate on trying to have a normal life, but at the same time, golf isn't that important. Yeah, no, 100%. It's just finding a balance, though, isn't it? Because golf actually is important. Sport is really important, and I think doing something you enjoy to switch off from the pressures of life, perhaps at times, is important. And for a lot of people, golf is life. For the pros, it's their means of living. They have to perform constantly in golf in difficult circumstances. But at junior level, golf should just be fun. It should just be enjoyable, competitive, but fun and enjoyable. And if it gets, and we talk about exams, but if golf does get to a point for a junior where they just constantly feel under pressure and don't enjoy it, then maybe that's time we need to find out why that's happened, and if it's just generally not for them, it's not for them. Okay, perfect. Linked into the next clip then, because we've talked England Golf Lead Safeguarding Officer Petra Duvanna, and the point that I made to her is about expectations and how important it is to get them right with junior golfers. This is what she had to say on that.
Part of it is coming from within, but part of it's external as well. And I think that it needs to be agreed with the individual junior and the support team around them, of what is reasonable for a junior at their age and their level of development. What expectations should we be setting? And the fact is, we do have juniors playing up into men's teams and competing against far older and far more experienced players. And there are benefits to that, but there's also the potential for those juniors to feel, well, I'm not good enough. Well, you're competing against people that have got much more in their bag than you. So I think we need to just be mindful that it's a lifelong love affair with the sport. And when you're 14, 15, 16, you're right at the start of your experience and potentially your career, if we're looking at the elite pathways. We want longevity, we don't want burnout. So it's about setting those expectations with the player, but also with the support team. Like I say, that is so critical, because if they are setting expectations that you're going to be the next this, that, and the other within 2 years, then blimey, how is that young person going to separate that in their minds? They're not. It's going to become internalized and become an added pressure for them. So it is about working collectively to make sure that that young person is achieving to their potential, but at the same time is not at risk of burnout. And the second word, and it's a word which even in that answer, you use the word, and it's a word which crops up a lot, and that's pressure. Yeah. And pressure can come from all sorts of different angles. It can come from all sorts of different things, and it comes in life. Let's be honest here. We all have to deal with pressure at some stage, but it can be overbearing, can't it? Particularly for youngsters. It can, and I think it's so important. Like when you've got a pressure cooker, you're able to let off steam. So there are times when pressure is necessary, and a level of stress and adrenaline is needed to perform at your best. Nerves are normal. If you're in a situation where the outcome matters to you, then it is natural and expected that you will have some level of nerves. But when those nerves become debilitating anxiety, or when the stress becomes overwhelming and you are throwing clubs or swearing or letting off steam in other inappropriate ways while you're midway through around, then that is ultimately going to be unhealthy for your well-being, but it's going to be detrimental to your game as well. So finding healthy ways to let off steam in between those pressure situations is so critical. And just going back to what we were saying at the start about sort of balancing your mental health as you do your physical health, you block out times in your week for your physical training sessions. Why are we not doing the same for our mental fitness? Now, I've seen youth organisations who do talk about mental fitness rather than mental health because of all the reasons I mentioned earlier. Building mental fitness alongside physical fitness is a really powerful way of making sure that your whole well-being spectrum is balanced. So why not schedule mental fitness sessions throughout your week? Why not look at your calendar and go, when am I going to have some time for me? When am I going to have some downtime? And why not work out what those activities are that work for you? So everyone's different, and what will work for me won't work for you and vice versa. But I'm quite happy to talk about, I like to journal. So I will work out times in my week where I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to get lots of stuff out of my head and down on paper so that I've created a bit of distance and my head feels clearer. I also like to get exercise. I like to run. So I will map those sessions into the week. Now, yes, they're physical activity, but they're also good for my mental health. So I make those non-negotiable. And I think it's something that juniors, they're used to scheduling their time, particularly if they're committed to their sport, because they've got to fit everything in. Encourage them to look at their time and go, when are you going to have some time for your mental fitness? And just get them to really take ownership of that. And again, leading by example, we need to be doing this too. So anyone that's in that supporting role at the club, if the junior says to them, well, what are you doing for yours? You should have an answer. And it shouldn't be one you're making off on the fly. So they should, we should lead by example. I'm saying should a lot, like it's a little bit judgy. I don't mean to be. I'm trying to encourage people to prioritise this in the way that they do other things.
That's fascinating, isn't it, Ian? We call this podcast Mental Health in Junior Golf. Perhaps we should have called it Mental Fitness in Junior Golf, because that's the two important words. That second word's the important one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, essentially it's the same thing, isn't it? I kind of think, mental health, mental fitness.
But there's a stigma when you use the two words mental health, isn't there? Whereas if you say mental fitness, it sounds, yes, keep me fit.
Yeah, she makes a very good point. I go down to the gym, 2 or 3 times a week, and that's really important to me. Really important to me. What's also really important to me is I enjoy reading, and I have a bit at night where I go to bed and I just have 15-20 minutes where I just read, and that's important to me before I go to bed. And that's my sort of for both sides, the mental fitness side, because I come out of the gym physically, I feel good, mentally I feel so good. But then when I've read at night, I look forward to having a little, getting to bed and read for sort of 15 to, and that's all it takes, because I fall asleep after that. I'm tired. But those two things are really important to me. One is fitness. The other one is obviously my mental side, my mental health with reading. And then the other side is my mental fitness side, I suppose, linked to my physical side.
Let's hear from Emily again. We alluded to a little bit earlier when we were talking about how difficult golf is. And obviously, when you're playing a difficult sport, sometimes it can adversely affect your mental health and mental fitness, as we've just said there. Let's find out from Emily what she thought about how difficult it is, golf.
Yeah, it's very frustrating game at some points, and I'd be silly to say to any golfer that knows that it's easy and it's not. You're gonna have good days and bad days, but well, I've been told this quite a few times, and I have read it. And it's kind of a bad day at golf is always better than a good day at work. So it's no matter how bad the golf is, it's always, yeah. It's just I'm happy to be outside. No matter I can have some absolute shocking shots, but I'm outside. I'm playing golf, and I'm all right with that. It's good enough.
What techniques have you used in that sense when you know you're having a bad day? And you've tried not to get down, but at the same time, it can be tough, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, people that have seen me out on the golf course know that I'm pretty much the same all the way around, whether it's brilliant or it's not my day. But I'm very much, there is no point getting kind of angry or annoyed at a shot or anything like that, because it's useless and it just makes stuff worse. Yeah, I'm very much I hit a bad shot, I will probably just laugh at it in some capacity, because there's not a lot of point. That you could be sat at home have your head in books and doing loads of schoolwork or whatever else, or yeah. So it's just good to be out on the course, rather than there's not a lot of point getting annoyed at it because you could be doing something a lot worse.
But it would be fair comment to say that you are in a rarity there, in the sense of, teenagers, juniors.
Junior golf especially, yes, I would agree with you on that. I have seen a lot of juniors that bad shots or anything like that do get a little bit frustrated with it, and that's entirely fair enough. But yeah, on my experience and just how I am on the course, if it's a bad shot, just laugh at it because it could be a lot worse.
You feel as if you are giving your playing partners a help when you do that, in the sense of you trying to make, even it could be a bad round for all three of you at that particular time, or whoever you four or however many players you're playing at that time. If you're trying to raise the spirits of the players around you, do you feel as if you're helping them as well?
Yeah, it can be quite helpful, because it's having experience of playing with people that aren't having a good day and aren't playing very good golf, and they are just getting really frustrated and getting angry with it, and it does affect the other people in the group. I'm not going to ignore that. It's not nice to be playing golf with. So if I can try and have a bit of a laugh at it if it's not going very well, or make a little bit of a joke at it and put a smile on everybody else's face, and it does make the overall round a bit more enjoyable than getting frustrated if you hit a bad one.
And I'm saying there, as if you're playing alongside juniors. What about when you're playing with adults as well? Perhaps they would find you refreshing, in the sense of, someone who they would perhaps might expect would be the one to throw in a tantrum isn't.
Yeah, I have had that a few times where they've just gone, you just sit there and laugh at it, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's probably the best thing you can do at it. There's no point getting annoyed at it. And I think they were a little bit surprised at that, because stereotypical junior golf, a lot of them do get frustrated with bad shots and things like that. So they were a little bit surprised that I've hit some god awful shots, and they've just gone, I've just laughed at it or made some kind of joke at it, and they've all been laughing along with me. So I think they're a little bit surprised that, yeah, I'm not so much getting angry at it, because there's not a lot of point doing it.
Now, I've raised this point, and I've said this on this podcast before. One of the techniques that I use is basically just to walk around the golf course, look up, and take in the golf course, and the positive parts of it goes is the back of your head, or at least that's what I've been told. The placebo effect, if you like. I don't know whether that's true or not. Actually, this is a point I'll raise to Petra. Is that a technique which other people could use? This is what Petra had to say about that.
I believe that tipping your head back is going to improve the blood flow to the positive part of your brain, then why won't that work? You believe it, so it's going to work. And I think there's other things. I heard coaches talking about when you've hit a less good shot, and you're feeling frustrated. Go and take a sip of water. Just go and, for that moment, focus on something else. So something as simple as taking a drink, which is going to rehydrate you, which is a benefit to your game. But it just, for a few seconds, takes you away from looking at where the ball's gone, and takes you away from thinking which club you're going to pick next. And it just gives you a little tiny reset. And in that time, you can have a little chat with yourself, like, okay, next shot. So you just leave it behind, next shot. And, just really simple, practical stuff like that is brilliant advice.
What about talking as well? Because golf is a social game. What about talking to your player partners? Because you can talk about anything on a golf course. It doesn't have to be about golf. And invariably, it usually isn't. It's about other things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so powerful just having conversations. And a lot of the sort of mental health support groups are based around walk and talk. And there's several benefits to that. Yes, you're walking and talking, and you're conversing, but you're also out and about, and you're getting fresh air, and you're getting the blood flow moving. But if you think about it, you don't have to look someone in the eye while you're engaged in another activity. So if you're talking about something that feels a little bit personal or uncomfortable, it's just made that a little bit easier by the fact that you're not eyeballing someone across a table. And also engaging your hands is often a good way of loosening the tongue, because I don't understand the physiology, but you'll know as well as I do that when your body is actively engaged in an activity and someone asks you a question, you don't filter as much because your mind's already engaged in something else. So you'll speak more freely, and it just helps those conversations to flow. So when it comes to supporting juniors, and if you feel like you've identified an issue potentially and you're concerned about someone, rather than saying, you know what, let's have a catch up. I'll see you afterwards in the office at the back of the clubhouse. A young person's probably going to spend the rest of the time thinking, what's all this about? Oh my goodness. And then once they're in there, they're going to be sat thinking, oh, I'm trapped in this room and this person's looking at me. And it's not very conducive for starting those conversations. Whereas if you're like, let's go and have a chip and chat. And that becomes a regular thing, sort of as part of the club ethos, that every now and again a junior organiser will take a junior for a chip and chat, or the club welfare officer. It just becomes an accepted part of what we do. And then if someone feels like they need to bring something up, they know they've got a forum to do it. Or they could even ask themselves. They could go to that adult and say, look, I fancy a chip and chat, would you join me? And it just gets those conversations moving more easily.
A chip and chat. That was a new one to me when she started.
I've never heard it either, but it's a great idea, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Isn't it the worst thing in the world, isn't it, Steve? We got different roles now and things, and I think we both work for ourselves, don't we? But I remember when I was employed, and let's say you're going in the morning, and then the boss would say, "Oh, we need to have a chat this afternoon," and the rest of the day, you'd want to know immediately, "Am I in trouble? Oh, what's it about? Oh, don't worry about it. We'll chat about it later." Don't worry about it. Well, I'm worried about it for the entire day. Like, that's it. And it ruins your day, doesn't it? When somebody does that to you, it ruins your day because you're thinking, have I done something wrong? Am I in trouble? Am I going to be handed my P45? Am I going to be made redundant? What's going to happen? And then you get in and it's over something silly. Like, oh, I just wanted your opinion on this logo design or something. Do you know what I mean? You're like, why didn't you help me out and just say, don't worry, it's nothing major. I just need your help on some design work or something. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And she makes a very good point with that. And if there are any people watching this who are managers or in a position of power and does that to people, please don't put their mind at rest, because actually you're going to find they're not very productive that day until they've had that meeting. So get it done early.
So we're giving advice not just for golf, but also for other different industries and different sports and all that type of thing.
Absolutely.
Now, we've spoken a lot about how golf can help playing wise and that type of thing. Spoke to Emily as well about something slightly different within golf, and that's her volunteering work within the charity industry. This is what she said about how much it's helped her mental health by doing that.
It's always nice that I can go and kind of focus on something else as opposed to whatever's going on in my head at that point in time. But yeah, it's always nice that working with charities and getting more kids into golf with the things that I've helped deliver at, and people that haven't really had the chance to try golf before, helping with those kind of sessions and working with charities is always a very, very good thing to do. And it's quite nice that I can focus on that and put a lot of my time into seeing that other people are enjoying golf and working with charities to make stuff better for more people.
Just give us an idea about which charities you've worked with and different organisations you've worked with.
So I'm an ambassador for the England Golf Trust. and my dad's captain's year was last year, and that was the charity for his year. So we did a lot with them and raising money for them, which was very, very good. And being an ambassador for the trust, it was quite nice that we picked that and we could do more work with them. In terms of charities and things like that, there's a charity that's not too far from me that we did a lot of work with seriously ill children, and we brought them over to the club and ran a little session with them, just with little clubs doing putting challenges and little chip into the big Velcro target. So that made me feel really happy to see that all of them and the smiles on the faces that they had for just giving it a go, and even with whatever's going on with them, to see how happy they were that they'd hit the little target or they'd hit the cone on the green and anything else. Just seeing all of that and the smiles on people's faces trying golf for the first time is always a brilliant thing.
And also, obviously, this podcast is about mental health. The mental health of those people you mentioned there, you know, the things that they were going through in their life, that day they will remember that day, won't they?
Yeah. So it's always a nice thing to see that how much they've enjoyed it, and we also having a chat because they all got like a little cake and everything else, and we were sat out on the patio afterwards for a little bit, and the amount of kind of parents, carers, people from the charity that all came up to us at the end and just gone, seeing them this happy has actually put a massive smile on our face, and we're all going to remember this for ages. So even having little comments like that come back to us absolutely made your day.
And also, just finally, you were named in golf Young Ambassador of the Year. I think that was the exact title. You tell me different.
Young Volunteer of the Year.
Young Volunteer of the Year. So just tell us, your mental health on the back of that. How much that made you feel as if what I'm doing is not only is it helping me, but it's helping others as well.
Yeah, it was very much a shock. The other girls I know and I've been around for quite some time, and all of the work that they do is brilliant. So I was shocked. I was more than delighted to even get to the final, and then to be picked was incredible. And trust me, if you'd have seen any of the interviews from that, I'm kind of shaking because just not expecting it. But yeah, to see that more people are getting into golf because of the work that I'm doing. I don't do any of the stuff that I do to get recognised for it. I do it because I want to make golf better, and I want to get more people enjoying it and getting as much out of it as they possibly can. So yeah, to see that it's paying off and more people are enjoying it and sticking with golf and help building them as a person, I suppose, to seeing all of that and all of it's paying off and gone very, very well, and yeah, it's definitely all good on my end as well.
Actually, just finally, then, when we get the guests on, we quite often ask them for what their advice would be to whether it's a golf club or a golf county or a parent or whatever. As far as mental health is concerned, what would your advice be to some of those people about how to deal with junior golfers and how to help them with their mental health?
Just, I would say take a second just before you kind of say anything, or just realise, obviously, that might be a lot more going on in someone's head than you actually realise. And it's, especially with mental health, talking about it's quite a difficult subject for some people. But yeah, obviously a lot of golf clubs and everything, all the safeguarding and the welfare and everything else, it's, yeah, just do as much as you can and just obviously provide them with the opportunities, because I know how much golf has helped me. If you can provide those kind of opportunities for your players at the club and players in your county, then trust me, it does make a difference.
Fantastic hearing from Emily. It speaks very, very well, doesn't she?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always impressed with Emily. I remember I met her at Woodall Spa, funnily enough, a couple of years ago at the English Under-18 Championships. She did a bit with us, and very well spoken, very intelligent, seems to have her head switched on mentally as well. You know, she does the right things, and the perfect person actually to have on the podcast for this particular discussion, Steve.
Right, just to finish off then, let's hear again from England Golf Lead Safeguarding Officer Petra Duvanna. She's going to explain a little bit more about what role England Golf play in helping improve mental health within junior golf. This is Petra.
Team at England Golf, we are contactable obviously during office hours, and we're just on the end of the phone. You can email us, but we will give just general advice. So I think there's a bit of a misconception that you only contact the safeguarding team if it's, you know, someone's hanging off a ledge. We're at the extreme end of the situation. What do we do? We're here just to give advice, even if you want anonymous advice, even if you just want to chat through something that may or may not be a problem, we're here for that. So please don't hesitate to pick up the phone. But there's also, aside from us, there's an NSPCC helpline, and they're open longer hours than us. So you can contact them, anything to do with children. Again, it can be anonymized. So if you're not ready to sort of commit to making a referral, for example, it may not be necessary anyway, but you don't have to give those details. You can talk anonymously. And also there's loads of places we can signpost you to. The CPSU website has got the section on mental health and wellbeing, which there's just a massive pool of resources in there. There's all kinds of webinars and e-learning, briefing notes on every possible subject to do with mental health that you can think of. It's in there. So I'd really recommend going there if you just want to do a bit of research. And also, this is what I say to anyone supporting juniors. It's a lot less scary when you know a bit about it. So if you can educate yourselves about the sort of mental health problems that come up, and also in how to support positive mental health too, then that will make you feel a bit more empowered to have these conversations. And one of the places I go, and it may be a bit left field, but for me it's a massive source of information, is a BBC iPlayer. So they have a documentary section. There's hundreds of documentaries in there, but there are so many really good ones targeted around young people and mental health support and common mental health issues. So there's ones about eating disorders, there's ones about self-harm, there's ones about living with parents with mental health issues and the sort of trickle-down effect that has on youngsters. And, you know, I've learned so much from watching those shows. There was another one about social media, and those of us that didn't grow up with social media, we cannot comprehend, even those of us with teenagers that are going through it now, we're not experiencing it firsthand. So we cannot get from their perspective how addictive it is, how problematic it can be. But that those sort of documentaries, they just lift the lid on how it all works and how the algorithms work, and all the stuff that we hear and go, yeah, it actually breaks it down for us. So as adults, we can properly support our juniors. So I would really recommend the iPlayer.
And the best thing about that was, Ian, is the fact that our next podcast is about social media.
Hey, yeah. Well, hey, a good one for me. We broadcast there a lot, so yes. Yeah, and of course we're on social media right now.
Absolutely. So perfect lineup there though for Petra there, just to explain the fact that obviously social media plays a big part in mental health. Now this podcast is all about mental health or mental fitness, as perhaps we will retitle it when we do the rebroadcast on Sunday, and it's to coincide with Youth Mental Health Day. So I think it's been a really important, and we've gone on a little bit. But so what? Because I think it's one subject which we need to give a little bit of time to, and obviously
there's one to go on. It's this one, yeah.
This is the one whereby we needed to add get in there and talk about the different issues with it. And I think we have done that. So massive thanks to yourself, Ian. Thank you very much as well to England Golf Young Ambassador Emily Horsted, and also England Golf Safeguarding Officer Petra Duvanna as well for joining us on the show. Like we say, the next podcast we're going to be covering social media. We're going to do international junior golf at some point, hopefully between now and the end of the year, and we're going to be covering lots of other different subjects within junior golf as well. So thanks very much for watching this evening, and we shall see you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.